Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. The Gender and Child Affairs Division and the National AIDS Coordinating Committee have joined forces this carnival to campaign for change. Let's learn more this morning on Spotlight.
Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. This morning we are talking carnival safety. I have with me Rosanna Cardines, Child Development Specialist in the Child Affairs Division, Richie Bansraj, Gender Training Officer, the Gender Affairs Division, and Yolanda Simon, Vice Chairman of the National AIDS Coordinating Committee. Good morning to you and welcome to the Now Morning Show.
Good morning.
All right, let me start with you, Ms. Simon. I think I'll start with you. Tell me why we have a carnival campaign in the first place. What does NACC hope to achieve with this carnival campaign?
Well, why not a carnival campaign? I mean, we know what carnival brings to the country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a time of revelry, merriment, good times, gay abandonment. And I use that word guardedly because, you know...
Because we're in 2024.
Yeah.
I understand.
But, you know, it's a time for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst we want people to have fun, but we want people to have fun responsibly and safely. So apart from that, I mean, and we're going to get into some of the things we're going to talk about. But essentially, that is it. We want just to remind people, yes, it's carnival, but there's life after the festival, you know, and we don't want 9 months down the road for too many new lives to be fluttering around.
You don't want more lives? Or you don't want people to do it irresponsibly?
Correct. You see, you're already on target.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
You're already on target, Rockets.
I say let me just make sure we're on the same page.
We
I think that
indeed.
It's a very important message. But all right, so Carnival, we know we have an influx of people, but we also have a lot of people that mix and mingle in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we want everybody to be as safe as possible.
Yeah.
Shall we start with the adults or the children?
It's up to you.
I
would love to start with
Let's start with the children.
Let's start with the children.
Yes.
What are some of the key messages that we need to make sure children have as we get into this carnival season?
Well, this year in particular, we want persons to play their part and to be a hero and to get child abuse down to zero. One of the key things that we want persons to remember this carnival is the safety of children.
Right.
So in your planning, in your organizing to go to your parties and your fetes, please make sure that you make appropriate arrangements for children. So we want to highlight the acronym SAFETY, which provides some tips for parents and for adults when considering children. The S is for supervision. Make sure that you have sufficient supervision for your children. A, let children know how to act in the event of an emergency. So that's like ensuring they know hotline numbers like the police at 999 or even the Children's Authority at 996, or even knowing their parents' phone numbers to call, or an auntie or a nene to call in the case of an emergency. The F is for focusing on a healthy and a balanced diet, because, you know, sometimes with all of the festivities and the revelry, we forget that, you know, we need to actually leave some food
to
for the
feed
children. Yes,
People
we need to
feed the children?
Sometimes, you know, because we always think, well, they have things home, they could figure things out for themselves. But all of these things are part of the safety considerations.
Okay.
And the E is for educating and encouraging the children to know the hotline numbers. T is for touch. You know, in the past you'd always hear about good touch and bad touch, but now we want to encourage persons to be aware and teach their children what is an okay touch and a not okay touch, because the reality is the way how our bodies is made up of, even if someone is touching a child inappropriately, it may feel good. So we need to ensure that our children know what is okay and what is not okay. And why we are encouraging adults to know that you are important to your child. So it's important to listen to them, to have conversations with them, and to believe them if they ever make reports of abuse. So SAFETY is the acronym. It's a little extensive, but we want you to play your part and to be a hero. Let's get child abuse down to zero.
I feel like I love that tagline, be a hero, get child abuse down to zero. Richie, let me bring into the conversation here, because I'm really curious as to what are some of the gender issues that come up, especially around carnival time.
So with the use of alcohol, you have a lot of, it acts as a catalyst into gender-based violence. Now women, girls, and the children are victim in these circumstances when they use the alcohol and abuse the alcohol. So what we want to do is raise awareness of gender-based violence that takes place in the various forms: physical, emotional, sexual, all of these variations of gender-based violence. And we want want to make sure that, I know Child Affairs was talking about the pay attention to your child, but also pay attention to your significant other, because what may happen is that you leave to go to a fete, you leave a significant other home, and you're creating this structure of rigidity and a strict structure where your significant other, be it a male or a female, you have to stay home. You can't fete with me. I had to go my fete, and then when you come home, alcohol consumption, abuse, in various forms of gender-based violence. So we want to try to raise awareness to make sure that this is reduced and that people don't take advantage of all of the ills that may come with the alcohol abuse.
But tell me, how do we reduce that? Like, what do you suggest? I mean, the situation that you called there was very, very specific.
Yes,
if it
very
is,
specific.
There are people who say, you go your way, I go my way, and then we go bounce back up later.
Yeah.
That's a carnival mentality, for lack of a better phrase, right?
Yeah.
But how do we work on that?
Pay attention to your people around you. So in Trinidad is a very close-knit community. Everyone knows each other.
We live on an island.
We live on an island. Everybody know each other. So you pay attention to your neighbor. You pay attention to your close family. And you see how they're dealing with the family dynamics when it comes to the carnival season. It's a totally different environment. And you need to pay attention to the children. You need to pay attention to also your relationships with other persons. So I would just advise, you see something, pay attention, say something. And it has 800 SAVE, which is one of the contact numbers, the domestic violence hotline.
All right, so Ms. Simon, let me bring you back into the conversation here, because of course we want to change the way people think and approach their behavior for the carnival, is what we're trying to do, yeah? How do we hope to achieve that?
Oh, first of all, I would say, there's no magic bullet, and people will change when they want to change. So we could talk.
But what are some of the changes that we want to see?
Well, what we want to see is we want to heighten the awareness. We want people to think. We've been in Carnival, all of us have participated in Carnival in some form or the other. But we just want people to just pause for a minute and say, I'm going to the North Stand, yes. I'm going to consume X amount of alcohol instead of consuming the whole bottle of JW. Have a glass, share it, have a designated driver. We like with JW. Is that Trinity?
I understand.
But be aware, be wise, because Carnival. It's just kind of. It's almost like a malady, Carnival sometimes. But we just want people to step back and remember they have choices. Remember, as I said before, there's life after Carnival. Remember too, as my colleagues are saying, about the children, about your significant other. Remember about your life. And when we're here standing today talking about this is not like a one-off thing, because it's not like we're going to be here next Carnival and doing this. But this is kind of the prelude to a longer campaign. Because,
tell me more.
Because there is life after Carnival, as I said, and the campaign continues. For example, at the level of the National AIDS Coordinating Committee, we are currently finalizing 2 excellent documents: the National Strategic Plan, 5-year strategic plan for Trinidad and Tobago, and the National Policy on HIV and AIDS for Trinidad and Tobago. And between those 2 policy documents, we know, we are not even hopeful because we've been doing this a long time, we know it's going to guide us in the direction that we want to go. Everybody knows about HIV and AIDS. My 5-year-old niece can tell you how you get HIV, how you don't get HIV. But what we need to understand is that HIV is not only the responsibility of the agencies, and I say agencies, I didn't say the Ministry of Health,
of course.
Agencies, but it's all our responsibilities. All of us have a role to play, and if we understand that and we move from that position, we're going to see some changes down the road. And I ask you all to look out for these documents. They're coming out. Look out for the members of the NACC. You're going to see them. And whilst we are coordinating mechanism, we have lots of partners on the ground, both regionally, bilateral, but here to do the work, because our goal is the global goal is to end AIDS as we know it by 2030. And we are on course to do just that.
End AIDS as we know it.
As we do it by 2030.
does that mean end it, or like just end it the way we know it and have a different version, like COVID,
and
changing all the
as
time?
we know it.
Well,
So the idea is, just to give you a little flavor. One of the strategies is called the 95-95-95, which is 95% of persons getting tested, 95% of them who are tested are on treatment, and 95% of those are undetectable.
Okay.
Now, when we get to 2020, those are undetectable. That is how we know we can end AIDS, because we're going to have a longer conversation, because you don't want to take
No,
it
but
as
it's- no, but
something
it's
you
important.
versus you equals you,
Yeah,
which
no,
is
but-
undetectable means
Right. Untransmittable as well.
that,
Okay, so I know that's important, because I think people oftentimes hear about the documents, and the plans, but they don't oftentimes get into the details of the documents, because a lot of people don't care for it. They don't care to sit down and read a whole document about it.
Yeah.
They would look at the poster, they would get that information, but they wouldn't sit down and go through the documents that you're working so hard on. And I want to make sure that we get some of that information out there as well. But let's go back to child safety for a little bit.
Sure.
Because you mentioned the acronym SAFETY, of course. But I wanted to touch a little bit on abuse, because you mentioned abuse, Richie, when it comes to adults, but of course we have abuse when it comes to children happening as well. How do we identify if we see a child? I mean, we have Kiddies Carnival coming up this weekend, you have the parade of the bands and all that stuff. If you see a child that seems to be in danger, how do we identify whether or not they might be in an abusive situation that you need to help?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question. Just this morning I was remembering the show Men in Black, and when the agent came and he was doing his training, they put him in a room and asked him to shoot
It's
down.
Men in Black 1.
The very first one to shoot down the odd things, and so that's the kind of level of vigilance we want persons to see. Look at your environment. What are the odd things standing out? If is a child in an environment that they should not be there, and I know it's humorous,
No,
but
but I love
really
that.
want-
That's a perfect example. I love
because
it.
there are situations where children are supposed to be, and we all know it, and there are some environments that are not appropriate for children. So when it comes to even looking at perpetrators, it's important to remember the data suggests that the average abuser is someone that the child knows. So it's not necessarily the stranger in a trench coat like when we were growing up
Not
as
a man
the
selling
image.
it.
You understand? It's someone you know. It's uncle, it's auntie, it's the neighbor, it's someone within their religious community. Unfortunately, it's very often someone they know. And so for parents and for adults, it's important to get to know the people your child is interacting with. And so for children, you want to look out for children who may be looking disheveled. They may have bruises or marks on their body. They may be begging, searching for arms, etc.
And what do we do in that situation? Who do we call?
In that situation, you can call the police hotline at 999, or you can call the Children's Authority at 996. And for children, you also can call those hotline numbers. It's absolutely free. Or you can call Childline or any other NGO at 131 to get assistance.
Nice. Richie, before we go, you mentioned a lot of the abusive situations that people can end up in when it comes to Carnival time, when it comes to how we party, how we do things. And you ask us to look out for each other. If we see something, who do we say something to?
Well, there's the hotline, which is 800-SAVE. And also, you could call the police as well, but you want to really just have that network of persons that you could rely on. I don't want to rely on, because some people may see the hotline and be like, I don't want to take that step.
Yeah.
I do not want to talk to some
go
stranger.
so far. Yeah.
To talk to some stranger. So be close with people and just observe behaviors as best as you could, because it has slight changes in behavior when someone is going through a domestic violence. You may see physical scars. You may see they're speaking differently. They're trying to give you subtle hints. So all of these things, as your neighbor, you have to observe these things with these abusive situations, these little hints. But I would still, as a representative of the Gender Affairs Division, 800-SAVE, S-A-V-E.
Nice. Well, Rosanna, Richie, Yolanda, thank you guys so very much for coming on this morning and sharing this bit of information. Time flies when we're having fun or good conversation as it is.
Great.
But thank you very much, and I wish you a happy and safe Carnival.
Thank you.
very
Same to you.
much.
Guys, we take a quick break and we come back with more inside the Now Morning Show. When we come back, we're talking fans, so stick around.
I go say strong